Welcome to another episode of Otaku Evolution. I'm your host, Penguin Truth, and man, is this anime lame. It's not that I haven't covered lame or even terrible anime before. Anime that either have paper-thin premises that would take a brilliant mind to work, only not to because the writers aren't up to the task, or have so many missteps that I just want to block them out of my memory, but rarely have I covered any bland, lifeless features like this one. This is barely a step above that first silent Mobius movie. Shadow Skill was a shonen fighting manga by Megumi Okada that ran, surprisingly, from the early 90s until just recently, but has been adapted a couple of times. The first time, what we're looking at today, is the OVA from the mid-90s. Manga Entertainment took 3 unrelated but sequential in production episodes and crammed them into what they call Shadow Skill the Movie when they released it, creating what you can safely assume is a total mess. But don't just take my word for it, let's talk a little bit about the feature itself. We start off in a coliseum where a fighting tournament is being held and our main character, Ele Ragu, takes on some giant hellbeasts. Ella holds the title of 59th Seville, bestowed on her for mastery of the Shadow Skill martial arts style, and we see why she's so well renowned as she kicks the monster's head right off. But not being satisfied with that, she continues to rain kick after kick on her opponent until it's just one bloody, pulpy mess of organs, and the first 2 rows of the audience becomes the splash zone. She does this not just to earn a living, but to impress her brother Gao, a mostly mute aspiring martial artist. After winning her match, Ella reflects with her friend Fiori and her guest to the tournament, a mysterious masked man who manages to get Gao to open up after questioning him.
Tell me, why are you trying to become a warrior?
In order to become strong, like Scarface.
You can talk then.
Vilo is the greatest civilian in the 200 years of history of the Karuta School of Combat. He beat the king of Karuta, Falkai, at the age of 16, and countless tales of his bravery and skill have been told throughout the kingdom. But none of the warriors of Karuta calls him by his real name. They all call him Scarface, out of respect and fear of the great scar that he carries on his face.
Why did you break your vow and speak to me?
I don't know why. It seemed right.
So wait, Gao doesn't talk to other people, even his sister, but he'll say something to the stranger that just came by? Is this just a case of you never asked, or what? Oh, and Elle and Gao aren't really blood-related, so there's your creepy shipping bait. She sees him as a brother, he sees her as a sister, but no, you go right ahead. After all, that's a big thing in anime. Who knew they were doing it in mid-90s fighting schlock, too? But moving on, one of Ella's rivals at the competition decides to strike before they're scheduled to fight, taking Gao captive to force Ella to let him beat her right there. He resurrects the beast from before, and things look grim as it squeezes the life from her as Gao watches. But then the mysterious masked man pulls a tuxedo mask and appears to give some encouragement.
Don't give up. If you don't rise to the challenge now, when will you? If you are a man, give your life to become a shield to protect those that you love. And show me what you're made of, Gao. Show me I am Scarface.
This is crazy! Scarface! Why should the famed Seville warrior be here?
Breaking free from the villain's spell, Gao makes short work of the demon. The bad guy escapes in a tornado, as you do. Gao decides to start talking more regularly, and all is well, ending the first part of the story.
And so begins the heroic exploits of Gao Ban of the Black Howling and his sister Ella. My brother!
Whoop-dee-doo. What a load of generic crap. I've seen more dynamic action in Dragon Ball Z. And after this, we hear nothing more about the tournament, which might have made for interesting story fodder. It's just on to the next chapter of the so-called movie, which has nothing to do with this one. The next adventure begins with the Lost Boys and Petra Pan here trying to subdue and capture a gigantic monster called the King of the Moon, using some strange series of chains and this big ring. As you might imagine, this doesn't go so well for everyone.
Don't worry about me, Kiao!
My master!
A few curious questions. First, why does the King of the Moon live on Earth? Why is the King of the Moon a monster? And if he's the King of the Moon, what's he doing on Earth wrecking people's shit? I guess if he was just minding his own business and these assholes just came along and started chaining him up, I guess he's got a pretty good reason to. Maybe he's like a legendary Pokemon, and they just ran out of Great and Ultra Balls before they could capture him. Guessing he's a dark type. Petra Pan here, desperate after the loss of her team, pleased with bar patrons come bounty hunters to get revenge on the King of the Moon, but the burly drunks aren't interested in throwing their lives away for Neverland or the Merry Men or whatever whimsical guild the teen girl represents. They quite rightfully think she's a moron for wanting to go after the monster.
You just don't give up, my dear, do you? You've heard from the commander. We can't do it. Huh?
No, I will not move from this spot until you agree to cooperate.
What did you say? We've told you we can't. That means we can't. You're just being damn stubborn.
Gao steps in, the white knight that he is, even though she's been pestering these guys and they just want her to fuck off. Grumpy from being bothered by yet another idiot, one of the brutes challenges Gao to a fight and is easily outmaneuvered. When one of the guy's buddies tries to attack, Ella steps in, kicks ass, and basically shakes them down for money. Of course, no good deed goes unpunished, and Petra Pan proceeds to pester Ella to help her take on the King of the Moon, offering to pay her handsomely. Pfft. Look, Petra, Ella isn't stupid. She's not gonna take on some gigantic legendary abomination that cleaves through armies with a swipe of his claws just because you toss her a couple of bags of money. What kind of foolhardy nitwit do you think she is? So, next we see Ellie, Gao, and Fiore in the woods at night, preparing to help the young lass avenge her team on the King of the Moon. Because why should life make any sense? The girl is barely even coordinated, the poor thing.
I have been practicing every day without fail. Well, I may not be much good, but I swear to you that I will take revenge for my master and comrades. But I don't seem to be getting any better at it, Gao.
Did I mention how horrendous the voice acting in this is? It makes Harmageddon's English dub seem like Hellsing's in comparison.
Something's coming.
Is it him?
Yes, there's no doubt.
Kiao, is there anything you want us to do about it?
Give me an opportunity with the Chulings. Give me the chance to strike at him.
Okay. I can't sense his presence. It's up to you.
Anyway, the King of the Moon suddenly appears for his evening constitutional, and the team leaps into action with Fiore using her magic, Ella and Gao kicking the monster's limbs off, and Petra doing her best to bind it. But the King of the Moon just regenerates itself. They try to hold him in binds, but it seems clear that Petra will have to sacrifice her life to hold it while Ella finishes it, which doesn't sit well with Ella.
If I remember correctly, Jinstra, the commander of the Phantom, had a granddaughter who was the apple of his eye. Her name was Kiao. In other words, that is you!
Huh?
Don't you see? If I let you get killed here, there will no longer be anybody carrying that great man's bloodline!
My master's blood!
They decide to use a different strategy, keep hacking away at it, not giving it time to regenerate before they bind it and finish it off. Petra struggles with her weapon and holding the creature, but fortunately the sun comes up and apparently sunlight is deadly to the King of the Moon. The demon crumbles, Petra's team finally avenged. But then there's the matter of payment.
What? How can you say you don't have the money?
Well, Ella, it's not that I don't have it.
Do you think you can hire me for 10 lousy pieces of gold? Have you forgotten that I'm a civil?
I'm sorry, But I promise that I will work and repay you what I owe you. I promise.
No! Always pay in cash and promptly.
I'm sorry.
Ella, give her a break, will you?
Okay, Cal, I've decided.
Yes?
As from today, you'll be a member of our gang and you better like it. Don't try to refuse because you can't. I'm going to boss you around and use you until you've paid back all you owe us.
So our hero's little RPG party has expanded by one as they level up for the next random encounter and or boss battle. Save point! You know, even though he was a towering monster, I can't help but feel a little sorry for the King of the Moon. Guy was just minding his own sweet business and everybody just starts attacking him. Maybe if it had been established that he was destroying towns and eating innocent villagers, I could get behind attacking and killing him, but he was just, doing his thing. And our heroes are kind of douchebags. The final part of our movie begins with Fiori casting a spell with what appears to be Hitomi's pendant from Escaflowne in a confrontation with Ella. But what would make these friends suddenly fight each other? Why, a flashback, of course. Well, for now. It turns out that Fiori is talking to Petra Pan, Kiao, about how she and Ella had once been mortal enemies who fought each other because Ella apparently killed her master. But for some reason they put aside their differences and became good friends. So naturally this story will be about them becoming enemies again. Scarface is in the company of this Dio Brando looking guy who wants Ella and Fiori to fight and uses ice magic to freeze a waterfall. I would have thought he'd use the power to freeze time. Sewarado! Speaking of cold, just listen to some of this voice acting. Brrr.
It has been a long time. It was 3 years ago that I first met you.
Why bring that up all of a sudden?
No reason.
Yes, but in the summer 3 years ago when we fought in the arena, you and I were sworn enemies.
You really surprised me that day. You were only a Suilane, but you kept up with my battle skills.
It was do or die for me. To get revenge for my master's death. I even used the forbidden spell of the Great Arcana.
Dio confronts Fiori over the fact that now she's good friends with a woman who killed their master, who's also their father, wondering why she hasn't yet had her revenge. When Fiori suggests that, having known Ella for as long as she has, she knows that she wouldn't just kill their teacher, Dio produces their father's pendant to remind her of his death, and apparently that's enough proof to get her to challenge Ella again. Ella, of course, is always in the mood for a good duel and accepts, doing some of her usual moves, which, while in interesting style, are not particularly well animated. And for her part, Fiori has great magical defense. Dio Brando is stupid enough to loudly admit that he killed their father and master as he watches from afar, which catches the attention of Gao. Scarface appears and confirms this is true. While Dio insists it was Ella, Scarface disputes it since he was there when Ella fought Fiori's father, a fair fight, after which Dio struck a weakened opponent. But, true to his nature, Scarface refuses to get involved in anything, leaving Gao to fight Dio. Well, Ella and Gao both go Super Saiyan on their opponents, leading Gao to kick Dio off a cliff and Ella to knock Fiori out. Apparently this is all it takes for the matter to be put to rest as Fiori recovers and rejoins Ella's team. And as Gao reflects on the day's events, the movie ends. Well, that was lackluster. They take some potentially interesting elements like the strange fantasy setting, the unique fighting styles, and the idea of fighting schools and tournaments, and really do nothing with them. It's almost like they're afraid to go full force with these things, and so the effort feels lifeless and wanting. It's not one of the worst anime I've ever seen, but it's so much harder to watch something with potential that it squanders with poor follow-through than just plain awfulness at times. But alas, that's what we have here. Forgettable schlock crammed together into a so-called movie because of manga entertainment's incompetence. But the truth can be painful, can't it? Even so, one truth prevails. Now that's an interesting phrase. See you again next time!